Fire protection companies manage inspections, installations, monitoring, and equipment, all with strict compliance requirements. Today, we'll show you what happens when you run all of that on one platform. You manage 4 revenue streams: inspections, installations, alarm monitoring, and equipment sales. Each one has different billing cycles, compliance requirements, and scheduling demands. Most fire protection companies run these across separate systems, one for inspections, one for monitoring, spreadsheets for the rest. NetSuite handles all 4 on one platform, tied to one customer record. Here's what a real customer looks like. Greystone manages 30 properties. Each site has its own inspection schedule, device inventory, and compliance requirements. Some have active install projects. Some have open deficiencies that need to convert to repair or replacement quotes. All of it lives under one customer record, and nothing falls through the cracks. Let's talk about project work first: installations and retrofits. This is your project to cash lifecycle. It starts with an estimate. Your team does a site survey, counts devices, scopes labor, factors in permits. That estimate becomes a proposal. The customer signs, and now you've got a project. In NetSuite, that project lives on the same customer record we just saw. You're tracking your schedule, assigning crews, procuring materials, and pulling permits all in one place. As the install progresses, you're capturing labor against milestones, consuming inventory, and tracking costs in real time with Efficiency's job costing suite app. When the system is commissioned and the AHJ signs off, your final invoice is already built, because every cost, every milestone, every change order has been flowing through the project the whole time. No rekeying, no reconciliation of spreadsheets, estimate to final invoice in one system. Now, here's your reactive service flow. A customer calls in, we create an FSM case, build the tasks, and dispatch a tech. On site, the tech logs their time, materials, and expenses all directly in NetSuite. Back in the office, our material job costing module tracks the real cost of that job. Charge-based billing generates the invoice automatically based on your service tiers, and you collect payment. One flow from phone call to cash in the bank, with full margin visibility on every service call. Now let's jump into a break-fix flow in a demonstration.
Today we'll be going through one of our fire service and security systems customers. This is a customer that I've been working with, so I want to walk you through how they handle some of their service levels in their old system and how we mimic that in NetSuite today in order to bill their customers the appropriate amount based on what they're doing for that job. So we're going to be starting off by creating a project template. So we already have a few created, and I'm just going to focus on this alarm install residential. So the big piece that we are using in order to capture these service levels is the charge-based billing. So we have different rules set up for each type of residential, commercial install or break fix that they might be doing. So on this fixed fee rule, they have a one-time trip charge. Right now, we just have it set as an amount of $2, but they just have this fixed fee that they charge every single customer just to go on site. They also have different levels of overtime, regular time, and then the first 30 minutes fee. So we set up time-based rules to capture first 30 minutes 3 with a rate multiplier of 0, and then we have a regular time of 1, and then the overtime is a 1.5 multiplier. If there is any expenses that are tracked on site that the technician needs to submit back and charge the customer, we do also have an expense rule that will come into play that allows these to be billable. Cool. So this is what we're using to track service levels and how they do these billable services to the customer. So with that, what we're going to do is we're actually going to generate this project first. And I'm going to be using a test customer called Tater Tots here. So we'll do Taters Tots test service level. And we're going to create this project. So we're doing this before we actually get the service ticket in from the customer, because when we go through our FSM and our field service, we want to ensure that this project is able to be selected for our service ticket. Okay. So we would be assuming that we've gotten a call from the customer. They're explaining to us that the asset or the security system and or fire system that we need to look at, um, we already know all of that information. So we're going to create this project, and then we're going to associate this project to our field service case, and all of our field service assets that we're going to be looking at. So since we are doing the project first, and not using the native FSM scripting, we're going to need to come in and actually associate what type of project this is going to be and the asset that we're going to be viewing on site. So we want this to be a billable project. Excuse me. And then we're going to be using this asset right here. So with a parent asset of the 1234 East 119th Ave, with the Bergen Fire Department with the serial number of APF4W tab. Okay. And we are going to save this. So now that we actually have our project created, we can actually generate that break fix or service ticket. So if we come in and come into our cases, and we fill in the necessary information, and we want project 87. So we'll put in our customer again. And then we're going to choose our assets. Okay. So instead of defaulting it to the new billable, we want to default it to our project that we created in the first step so that we can utilize those service levels that we set up. So we're just going to choose that project that we set up in the first step, and then any details that the customer would have given us from this break fix. So let's say security system camera at the back door is flashing and making noise. We'll assign it to just a normal account manager, and then any additional information that they would like to fill in. In this use case, this customer is using different problem codes that they would set up depending on how they want to report on it. I'm just going to leave those blank for now. But now down at the bottom, let's say we already know who the technician is that we're going to assign to this job. So I'll say it's assigned to me, and I'll be going on site tomorrow to do this work. I like to put in the message down at the bottom just so the tech can see it as well, on top of where they see it on the case details. So we've scheduled our tech now. We've made our appointment for the tech to go on site for tomorrow from 8 o'clock till 12 o'clock to complete this job. So we've got this scheduled. We've confirmed this with the client, and it's time for now the tech to go on site. So we have our break fix created. We have our service ticket created, and then we also have our appointment scheduled for our technician to go on site. Okay. So now we're the technician. We go on site, and we would be launching the mobile app from obviously our phone or tablet, but we'll say we have our from the UI I was doing with my computer of what the mobile app would look like for this technician. So we come down and we find our task that we want to go and do the job for. So I'm going to click on that task, and I'm going to start running my time. And I'm going to say I'm starting this at 8 a.m. and I'm going to hit start. This is including my travel time from when I leave the warehouse and then get to the customer site. I can see any of my asset details here. I can see who the contact is for this customer. And then we have particular forms that are required for this customer. So we're going to put in this is a pass and brought all safety gear. And then do the signature. I do want to add a consumable here. We'll say that we are using 3 of this part that we have on hand. I do want to have 1 consumable because that's going to come into play. So we created that consumable record. And then we're not using our native time entry. We're using the enhanced time entry where it runs time in the background for us. And I'm just going to fill out the rest of these tabs that are required so that we can get to the service level billing piece of it. Into we'll say, yeah, message. I am also going to add an expense report for travel because we have our expense rule. So I want to be able to show how that populates across. So travel to site, launch. So as long as we have our time entry and an expense, we will be able to generate different service levels for this service ticket. So now let's say, all right, we've finished the job, everything's completed. Let's submit this service ticket as complete. And let's just get a good time entry here. Let's do 5 p.m. So we were on site from 8 a.m. till 5 p.m. So there are a few steps. Now, if we go back to our service ticket in NetSuite, it's going to update for us the few things, right? We can see our expense report, and then should be generating a consumable record for us here in a second. Might take a minute. But in the meantime, what we need to do is we need to approve our time and we need to approve our expenses. So that time entry and that expense report, we need to approve so that we can run charges against that project. So here's our time entry, or excuse me, our expense report of 19 from today. And it's worth $400. So I'll just go in and I will approve this expense report. So we have our approved expense report. Then we also need to do the same thing for the time entries, right? This is going to typically be done by a back-end office, and I wouldn't be approving my own. But we need to have these times and expenses in an approved status, or else the charges won't be able to run. Okay. So now that we have our time and our expenses approved, we can come back and we can go to this project. And we'll also see we have our consumable sales order created as well. But we can go to this project now and we can actually generate the charges for this project. Okay. So I'm going to open up this project. And then down at the bottom under financial, we have our charges. So we need to generate our charges here. And we should see 3 different charges generated: a fixed fee, the time-based, and then our expense-based rule. I'm just going to reload these project. If we come back down, and now if we take a look at our charge run history, once it loads up, should show us that we have different charges generated successfully. Let's see if this one will load faster. And here we go. So here's our different charges that we got. So we have a fixed fee rule, like I mentioned, of $2. We have our expense based of $400. The first half hour is free, as I showed in the time-based rules. We have $150 rate for half hour of overtime because I went over my working hours of 8 hours. So I did an 8 to 5, and so now we have our 8 hours of the regular time at $100 rate. So now we have all of our charges and we need to actually generate a invoice for these charges. So that would just follow the standard billing operations of invoicing your billable customers. So we need to come in and go transaction customers, invoice our billable customers. We find that customer for the 2,350, and we can generate an invoice for this customer. So this one aired out here. So let me just go back real quick. Must have had a small error, but I will show you if I click invoice here. It will pull over all of this example we have has been a test one we've been using a few times, but um, we have additional items on this invoice, but I'm just going to remove those out real fast. And so now we have our travel for Project 87 on site of the 9 hours, and then our on site of the on site one-time trip charge. So all of these charges would be applied to this invoice, and we could save it. Oops, forgot the location. And we can save this invoice. So once this invoice is saved, this would just follow the normal order to cash process and AR process for invoicing.